Alright guys, what's going on? Shouldn't start you until I get you back in the stand. We got this 400C. I'm sharpening with the Hexa file, and I'm just going to do a couple teeth real quick to show you. I'll try to find one that's bad, and then I'll lower y'all down and let you see. A couple of you have probably watched that hunting video. I do hunting from time to time. So if that kind of stuff bothers you, just don't watch it, because I do hunt, harvest animals, and we do eat them. So I think that's what the good Lord put them here for. And if he didn't want us to eat meat, he wouldn't have give us carnivorous teeth, you know. We'd be like a cow. We'd have all flat teeth. I can't really remember the technical terms for all that, but you get what I'm saying. So, yeah, omnivore, carnivore, and herbivore. If we was herbivores, we'd have all flat teeth. We're omnivores. We got sharp and flat teeth. So, anyhow, you get what I mean. And so if that kind of stuff bothers you, just don't watch it, is all I can tell you. And I'm not trying to be hateful about it. But if you don't like meat, that's one thing, you know, I understand that. But if you don't eat it just because you think it's wrong to harvest an animal, I believe that's your belief or whatever, but I don't believe like that. So anyhow, I'm trying to find a tooth right here that's maybe a little chipped or something. I think this one is right here, just barely. Not terrible, but barely. You can't really pick it up in the camera. But let me spin this thing just a little more and see. It's getting tight for some reason. Don't do me dirty, chain. But anyhow, that's just my thoughts on it. I don't do a lot of, I like bird hunting. There, that tooth is a little rocked. Dove and what you seen that hunting video about. Do quite a bit of dove hunting. I didn't go this last year because I was busy making content and messing with trees. But went the year before and we had a pretty good season. So I enjoy stuff like that. But anyway, off that and onto this filing deal. To me, the hexa filing takes a little getting used to if you're fairly good at round filing. I could see where this would be easier. You can put an edge on it, but to me, to get it exactly right, it does take a little getting used to, because, you know, you don't want this thing rocking, because if you rock the file one way or the other, it changes the whole angle of your tooth and the angle of your, per se, gullet. But you should be able to, and theoretically speaking, should be able to knock the camera plumb off the stand. You should be able to put this one angle and, you know, the two angles at the tooth and make them right, and your file should be sitting flat on the bottom. And mine's pretty close. So long as you keep that, you should be okay, and don't get to twisting the file too bad when you go. And then what you do, if you, like I have, you can kind of tell where your file needs to be right in that per the tooth. But now as the tooth gets smaller, that's going to change, because the height of the tooth gets shorter. So it's going to change your hexa profile, I would say. And I don't know that because I ain't filed one back that far yet. But I just do it like this. Try not to rock it. I try to keep it at the factory angle, or try to go by those witness marks there and keep it pretty close to the witness marks, because I like, and I've noticed on these chains, I stick a bar wrench on them. I can round file with a chain halfway sloppy, but this hex filing deal, I've noticed, I think you're going to want to keep the chain pretty tight where it's not rocking and moving and stuff. But the filing ain't that bad. And I'm just doing light strokes. And that's got that bad part out of it. And then you just want to make sure you're with your wetness marks and all that. And then I'm going to peek around here and make sure that I keep the profile right. And I'm going to bring y'all down so y'all can see it with me, what I'm talking about. Because if you twist the file, getting a little tipsy-turvy there, aren't we? I want to bring you down here where you can kind of see it. I think you can see it well enough right there. Lock my stand in. But what I'm trying to say is, what I was trying to tell you earlier, and I'll wipe that file and dust metal part away so you can see it. Let's see where the hexa ends up. Like here's the corner of the, like the edge of the tooth. There's a little edge profile right there. Well, I'm on the wrong tooth. Where are we at here, Wes? Back here. See that little edge right there? What I've noticed on most of these is the angle of the hexa is just right above that. And I'm gonna spin this forward to the next one where you can see one that I ain't filed. See, it's just right above that kind of in a way. Because there's the angle. And there's the one I filed, I think. Let me check it and see. That's the one I filed, yeah. So this is the one I filed. And you can see I got a little burr right there. And if you get a burr like that, you can just take your file real lightly and hit it. But what I'm getting at is where this might be difficult for some. Let me get this at the right angle and flat and all that kind of crap. That's tight right there. That's kind of the way you want it sitting in there, you know. And you will make sure this bottom part right here is getting down to your gullet like it's supposed to be. I'm gonna eyeball this off camera to make sure that I'm pretty right with my filing. I could be a little steeper in there, but it's fairly close. But what I'm getting at, make sure you can still see me. Like, there's my file flat. You should be able to get it in there. Get it flat. And once you get it there, you should be able to hold it and be taking filings off too, so you should be tight. Because here's the deal that I found with this. If you move this file up or down, it changes where the little corner rides at. So you got to be fairly straight across. And then also, if you twist your file, like if you twist it like this or twist it like this, it changes the whole profile of the tooth. So if you change the profile of the tooth, you've kind of lost the STIHL HEXA deal. And when I first started doing it, it took me a minute to get my file kind of hanging where I wanted it to hang. And we'll see where I'm at right there. I mean, that ain't terrible, but it ain't, it's pretty close to the same, because that's one that ain't sharpened. It looks fairly the same. There's one that ain't sharpened. It looks fairly the same. So, yeah, that's pretty close there. like I say, you just got to watch that. Is the only thing I see with the Hexa deal, to whereas it could be a little aggravating. But once you change this, move this at a different angle, it looks fairly good. It ain't really no different than this one here. This is the one I done. So some of them on the first one's on that 462. You know, I did have to file a little more than what I normally would have because of just getting used to the file and everything. You know, it no doubt took me a minute to get used to it. I'm gonna file this one a little bit more than I would. It's sharp. Because I want to test the Raker deal. That's looking pretty good there. And you can kind of see what's working and what's not. And some of these I had, the angle was a little off from the factory from what the file was. See, I'm rolling that back just a little bit per the thing, so I could technically come in here and hit a little more. But is that going to change my profile of the Hexa to being different from where it was different? It did. It brought it way up high on the tooth. So, you know, the files ain't perfect, the chain ain't perfect. So you got to kind of make your own judgment call on the how and where the file is biting the top plate the best, is my theory on it, without being too bad off. Like I say, once you do a few you kind of know where you want that. I'm bringing this tooth, like I say, back quite a bit because I want to check and see how the Raker's gauges, a regular Raker gauge, will do on this chain. Way more than I would normally take off of it. And then I want to check my profile again by just doing it. Typically I do a little better on the profile if I just get after it and not worry so much about the all that. And that profile looks fairly good as far as where the Hexa was at to begin with, you know. Yeah, it's right above that line. And of course that's going to change and vary, like I say, as you go back on the tooth. So you're just going to have to get it to where it's cutting the best. Now, will that make that cut as good as it was from the factory? I have no idea. So we'll get a chain. We'll get a chain halfway used up, and we'll see. Now this is where I normally set my, okay, this is the high setting for the West Coast Raker gauge, right? And this is typically the soft setting on the Husqvarna gauge. I don't know if that light helps or hurts. So we'll see where it rides at. Well, let's do the Husqvarna gauge first, because I know probably quite a bit of y'all has one of them. Okay, so here is, and that's what I'm talking about when I say hard and soft. Husqvarna gauge, hard and soft, hardwood setting, softwood setting. I don't know the thousandths and all that kind of jazz, because I'm not a thousandths man, you know. But the hard, we'd be taking some off on that, on this hard gauge. It's not, because I took probably not quite half the tooth, but I took quite a bit of the tooth off. I don't know if y'all can see how much shorter this tooth is compared to that one. So that's about, that would be about right. And we'll check these. We'll check one right now from the, not that one. We'll do one that you can see on this side. Back you up just a little bit. All right, this is a tooth that's never been filed. This is the Husky gauge on the hard setting. You're not filing nothing. This is the soft setting. And you are grabbing a little. Just very little. So honestly, to me, I believe these Rakers are no more hungrier than no more hungrier than a factory steel chain, or any other chain for that matter, other than possibly the what's that chain everybody likes? It's got the kangaroo Archer chain. Has very high drags from the factory. So that's, now we're going to the soft setting. And I may leave this chain at the hard setting. I don't know. But here's the soft setting on the Husqvarna gauge. I may leave it at soft, because that's about where it's set at, you know. It's a smidge lower. Crap. Make sure I got it. And that's honestly about right. Now, that's tooth should be fairly close to what everything else is, and that's a keeper line. Because I've got a chain, I think, that has not been sharpened. Maybe it has been sharpened. Well, my STIHL, I know I got a chain that's brand new that's never been sharpened. We'll look at the Rakers on it as well. But anyway, where's that tooth that I done? So here's the West Coast Saw gauge, and here's their high setting. I'm not getting on. I'm about right there. If it's a little bit, it's one of them deals that it's a little bit, this very high setting works a little better. I have one, it will work. It don't go quite back as far as it needs to go back. It would be a little better if it was skipped, but it still will work and file your drags. But this Raker gauge to me does not work on the STIHL HEXA. It does work. I ain't gonna say it don't work, but it's easier to do it with like the Husqvarna gauge, because y'all can see that this Raker is right even with the top. So this is, and this is the one I normally set mine on. It may be a little lower, but you don't want to come down here, because then it's, see, it has to pop to get on there the way the tooth angle's bent. But it would make that way too low. It's just harder to get that on there the way they got it bent. So if you're gonna run hexa chain to West Coast saw, either needs to make another Raker gauge with a little bit of wider gaps, or run a Husqvarna deal. And I love the West Coast Raker gauge. I'm not knocking that by no means, but this is just a different chain. And I don't really understand what the deal is, because it's fairly similar chain to me. On this, I'm gonna back y'all out, and then I'm gonna flip you around. We'll go get the 661 real quick, and we're gonna look at the Rakers and stuff on it. But to me, it's no difference, really. The Rakers on this, where the Rakers on the regular steel chain kind of swoop. It's a gradual swoop. The Rakers on this come straight up and then kick out. I don't know if I'll be able to get that on camera or whatever, but I don't know how much of this will be able to see. This has never been sharpened or nothing like that. We'll do this right here. Where's my flat file at? Okay. Where's my Raker at? Alright, so you got the Raker here. You're not getting nothing off with the hard. And you come over here, put it on the soft. And you're going to scrub just barely a little off. Well, really, you're not scrubbing off any. And I don't know, let's say, did we scrub any off on the, did we check a tooth that was dull over here? Like on the Hexa, you actually scrub just a little off, and right here, and we'll check another tooth. We'll check this one behind it, just to make sure I'm not, it ain't just a fluke. Okay, so you do scrub just a very little off, but you scrub more off on the Hexa chain than you do the regular steel chain. So honestly, to me, the regular steel chain Rakers, because here's one, you can hear me scrubbing against it, are a little higher. So the Rakers are honestly a little taller on the Hexa chain than they are the regular steel chain. But as you can see on the West Coast saw gauge, make sure I don't want to ground out. Do a little work on it, playing around. I'm scrubbing a little there. That's on the very high setting of this one, but it actually goes on there better. So you're not having to do, you're not having to fight it on there because the tooth ain't bent. Like say these swoop, they do flare out just a little. But you do, it flares out a little bit. It kind of bends, but the Hexa comes up and then just out. And I don't know if I can capture that in if if I can capture that or not, but see that? That's straight and then it floops out, right? And on this one, and I don't know, like I say, I'll try to capture what I can of it. If I don't fall and kill myself. They swoop, but they don't, or they come out, they swoop, they don't. See that? That swoops out. See how that swoops out? Even this one. On this one right here. It's bent out, but it swoops, where this would be straight and then a kick. So the Rakers are a different style. It's the only difference I see, and the filing. So I don't know what's better or whatever. But anyway, we'll continue to use the same file and all that kind of stuff on these chains. I'm not going to file anymore on this one because it ain't as bad as what the 462 one was. But we'll continue to look at them and see the differences and everything. And like I say, filing is easier once you get in the rhythm of it. It does take a second to get going if you get real technical about it. If you just put the file in there, get the angle where the angle is, and go with it. But I'm a bit of OCD, and I feel like if it ain't running just exactly where that it should be running, then it's not exactly right, or it could be worse than the chain. So, you know, if you just slap it in there and go, but when I slap it in there and go, it seems to work out better if I don't overthink it. Because honestly, you ought to be able to get the angle, that back hexa, you know, the hexa part and the hexa of the chain. And as long as all your angles are lining up, then you should be good to go. So, and we'll see as it goes back further in the tooth how it cuts and if it keeps the same profile and everything. But until then, until I get them wore down, we'll just have to wait and wonder. And this video number is, let's do 101. And we'll catch y'all on the next one. Appreciate everybody.